Good morning, everyone. Wow, some of you I recognize. You've been here before. Is anybody here I don't recognize? And for all of you that are here on live stream, welcome aboard. So this is Natural Brilliance. It is such a delight to have 2 days to explore this fabulous technology with you. This is a result of a serious study in why people don't achieve what it is that they set their minds to achieve. Now, we've always heard the kind of funny statement, it's like New Year's resolutions. You make this big plan and then you fizzle out on it really fast. I'm not talking about that. I mean, year after year, you're trying to get where you want to go and you're not getting there. What the heck? Now, what really fomented that for me at the time that I designed the program was that there were a couple of people that came up to me after taking the phone reading course and said, I got nothing out of this. I want my money back. I said, well, of course, you can get your money back. That's fine. But hold on a moment. What do you mean you got nothing out of it? How could that be? You'd have to be in a coma to not get anything out of it. I mean, I do better with people in comas, so how could this be? This is really not possible. There are over 18 different exercises, any one of which will double your reading speed. For example, sitting up straight and tilting the book will double your reading speed. Yeah. Putting a fixed point of attention at the top back part of your head will double your reading speed. Going into a relaxed state and giving yourself a positive statement about your speed and comprehension will double your reading speed and improve your comprehension. So how could someone go through the entire program and get nothing out of it? I was flabbergasted. So I got a couple of my colleagues together and we started looking at this problem. What is it that stops a person from really getting where they want to go? When they've committed to it, they want to do it, but they're not doing it. What could possibly be going on? That's where this came from. And the real breakthrough came when I worked with a fellow who was an expert in the nation on what's called outdoor experiential learning initiatives. Oftentimes, we'll hear about these as ropes courses, where you go up on some event, you have to climb a ladder, you have to go across a rope bridge, and you have to hang on with one little wire, and it looks real scary because you're up in the trees. And people will get to the beginning of that walk, but they'll not move. They say to this person, do you want to cross this bridge? Yes. Okay, well, go ahead and cross it. I can't. So they want to, but they can't. You hear this? They want to, but they can't. So what's happening in the neurophysiology? We usually just blow it off to fear. And we kind of lump sum it as, well, some people have a fear of success, and some people have a fear of failure. Wait a minute. Have you ever thought how silly that sounds? Why would someone fear their success? I'm going to give you this opportunity to succeed. I don't want it. Why? Well, people don't fear their success. Sure they do. They fear their success. Think about it for just a moment. Why would someone fear getting what it is they claim they want? Okay, so do you get the mystery in all this? It's absolutely clear as a bell, makes absolute sense, and that's where the natural brilliance model came from. Not only will it reveal the reason that we get into these stuck states, but it also shows you a simple protocol for moving beyond it. Now, there's 3 purposes for our time together. Kind of look at it this way. The first purpose, I think this is the right one. Yeah. The first is to learn what we call the natural brilliance strategies. There's actually a fairly simple set of instructions that you will go through to be able to gain access to the rich internal resources that I claim are your natural brilliance. What I found in the early days of my work in the human potential field was that people have an immense amount of resource within them, but for whatever reason, they've accepted a trance that says they don't have those resources within them. If we have some opportunity in the next couple of days so I can explain hypnosis to you and why I don't do hypnosis, I think of myself as a dehypnotist. It's not about placing you into trance. It's about awakening you from the negative or self-limiting trance that keeps you in that stuck state. So these strategies are going to help you really liberate your natural brilliance. Secondly, is if you have a significant issue in your life where you've wanted to break through but haven't been able to, this will be able to be applied to it. So I've asked that you bring with you a couple of significant issues that we could look at. We're going to look at one today. We're going to look at another one tomorrow. So, the more important this thing is for you, the more you've struggled with it, probably the better. You'll get a lot of insight as we go through this. And then finally, is how can we translate this or transfer the learnings out of this room here or off of your computer monitor and into your life? How can you make sure that wherever you are, whenever you are, when you feel yourself coming to a stop in what you think you want to do, you can break through it. And one of the reasons I believe I had the good fortune of being able to study this and have a breakthrough around it is that I made a commitment to myself early on. And the commitment was, I'm going to turn that off. The commitment was, if I find myself afraid to do something, then I'm going to insist that I do it anyway. Somebody wrote a book about that, Face Your Fear and Do It Anyway. And I found that that was a good strategy. Now, much later in my career, I discovered some important philosophical components about this. It's that who we are is born with immense spiritual potential. We're spiritual beings in a human experience. And what we have to do when we come into the human experience is we have to hide our power in a place that we're never going to look for it. We have to forget who we are, but then we also have to hide our power. Otherwise, none of this would make sense. We'd just always be transcending our human experience. So we're here to play. We're here to contribute our gifts to the ongoing outpouring of evolution. And if I'm hiding my power, guess where I'm hiding it? I'm hiding it in a place where I'm never going to look for it. Where is that? Behind the thing I fear most. Now think about it. When have you discovered what you're really made of? When you had to confront something that you didn't want to have to confront. I lost a job. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. My marriage came to an end. I finally freed myself, right? The things that we never wanted to have happen, the catastrophes. I face a terminal illness. I stared it down. I got on the other side of it. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, and yet for me it was the greatest gift I ever got. Have you heard these statements from people? Somebody wrote a book. It was called You're Fired. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And the great story about it is the fellow who was fired from an executive position at Menards, and he started Home Depot. to do it the way he wanted to, right? It's like, yeah. And it's not a good news at the time that it comes, but it ends up being the best thing that could happen. Well, a lot of that understanding came in the field of neurolinguistic programming from something called reframing. I encountered the work of a Dr. Al Siebert, who wrote The Survivor Personality. I first encountered his work when there was a published article in the Portland Oregonian newspaper, Sunday Supplement magazine. And it was called The Survivor Personality. When I read it, it so blew my hair back that I had to get the original of it. My brother lived in Portland. I said, can you find me an original of this? He couldn't get one from the newspaper. The newspaper told him it was the #1 most requested reprint article in the history of the newspaper. Seriously. And I knew why. It was such a revelation to me. It was mind-blowing. And while I'm talking to my brother, he said, well, I'll go to the library. He got microfiche. Do you remember in the olden days? Like they're gray with white letters. I mean, you can't reproduce that. It didn't work at all. It was awful. And his wife said, she was a social worker for the county where they lived. She said, you know, I think I saved that article. She went into a credenza, pulled out the Sunday Supplement magazine that it was in, and there it was. I got an original copy of it. Anyway, the thing that Al Siebert described, which really set it in motion, is this idea that we live in a biphasic universe. Biphasic. It's like binaural or binomial, like on-off. It's either on or it's off, right? In computing, that's what made computers possible. It's either on or it's off. It's a 1 or it's a 0. Now that makes it really hard to operate most of the time. So we live in a diurnal cycle. There's day and there's night. You got the light, you got the dark. Right? You've got a wave. It's got the crest and it's got the trough. Right? It's up, it's down. The universe, turns out, pulses like a heartbeat. It's this way or it's that way. If you think about Chinese philosophy, they call it yin and yang. Yin or yang. Yin is the masculine. No, that's the feminine. And yang is the masculine. Now, if you look at the symbol of the yin-yang, in the darkness, there's a spot of the light. In the light, there's a spot of the dark. In other words, it's never really fully one or the other. There's always a component of the other in the one. If any of you watch The Matrix, you know what I'm talking about. But the idea is a pretty interesting one. If I'm going to locomote from point A to point B, I have two groups of muscles here. One is called an extensor group, and one is called a flexor group. Now, if I didn't have a controlled opposition between these, I would just have a twitch of a muscle which would flip me forward onto my face, right? If I wanted to go from here to here, I go twitch, poof, right? That's it. But I don't. I've got essentially a yin-yang musculature, which is extensor and flexor groups, which give me what? The ability to have a controlled opposition for the entire motion along the entire spectrum of possibilities from here to there, right? Think of it as the counterbalance weight on an elevator. So you've got the elevator car and you've got the counterbalance weight. And what does that allow you to do? It allows you to go to any place, slow down, and stop anywhere along the line. Guess what? Got a left and right hemispheres of our brain. Guess what else? We've got a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So we're going to squirt these hormones into the body. Whoa, 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 too much. Let's back it off. Put these hormones in to slow it down. Oh, no, that's not enough. We got to get some more of that. You get it? And so what do we have the ability to do? We have the ability to move across the entire spectrum from all the way on to all the way off and anywhere in between. What happens in those moments when we get stuck? Think about it like this. Somebody who has contemplated suicide. They have two choices. They live with this pain for the rest of their life, or they end it now in one flash of pain and it's over. Hold it just a minute. What they're saying is, on the spectrum of 1 billion possible choices, you're saying you've got two? That's literally all they perceive. That's called the maximum stuck state in life, right? And if any of you were bold enough to face that moment and choose to live, then you know you chose to choose. You chose your capacity to choose something other than what was presenting at that moment. And so this comfort zone, as uncomfortable as it was, expanded. So here's the idea. Are you strong-willed or are you easygoing? Yeah. Are you humorous or serious? Yeah. You know, it's a good idea to be able to be serious when you need to be serious, otherwise nobody takes you seriously. And it's really a good idea to be humorous, especially in really difficult times, because if you can't laugh at yourself, right? Now imagine the resource of humor in the wrong context. Like all these serious people at a funeral, and you make jokes about death. You know, death might be a grave mistake. And so, you know, what? I had an uncle who passed away, and it was a tragic death. But I also knew that he was really an enlightened guy. So I sent him a Snoopy card with Woodstock, right? The Woodstock bird in Snoopy. And there was a little ladder to another nest. And Woodstock was sitting in the nest up there, and it said, "Just moved." That was my sympathy card. I don't know if it was appreciated because the family was in such grief, you know. But you get the idea? So how could we reframe in a way? Imagine what a great resource a barrel of crude oil is. Fabulous. Very important. Runs our country, has run our industrialized society, powers our plants for electricity, on and on, our cars, gets us around. If I had one right here and dumped it all over us, you wouldn't consider it much of a resource. So every resource misplaced brings to mind the British Petroleum spill or the Exxon Valdez. Any resource misplaced is pollution. Any pollution in the right context is a resource. Yin or yang? No, it's everything in between. So here's the fascinating thing about this biphasic structure. Think about a waveform, and now splice it in half and bring it together, and you've got the whole. You've got all of it right here. That's where in Taoist philosophy, they call it the Tao. It's all the one. And then consciousness separates the one into two. And it's from there that all things are created. When we look at the basis of the universe, we look at quantum physics, we know that the 0-point energy field from which everything emerges in two strands. One is matter and one is energy. It's all the same energy, but one's light and one's substance. Curious thing about light, if you try to study light, a photon of light, it will either appear as a waveform or it will appear as a particle, depending upon how you as a researcher look at it. You can't see it as both until just recently. Somebody actually got a photograph of light behaving as both simultaneously. I've got it as wallpaper on my phone. Isn't that interesting? So here we live in this amazing biphasic universe, biphasic personality, biphasic nervous system, biphasic musculature, biphasic everything, right? Biphasic. It's like two phases. It's this, not that. And we live in this comfort zone of our lives. And it's become comfortable because of the decisions that we've accepted or agreed upon. And some of those we agreed upon too early in our lives to know that that was a mistaken assumption about the world. And so we live in this comfort zone bounded by these stop signs that say, don't go past it, don't go past there. And here we are inside of it. And now we need choices out there, but we can't do it. So there we are in the experiential ropes course. We're going to break through to a new level of personal power. I'm going to walk across this rope and get to the other side of that. You ready to go? Yes. Okay, go. I can't. I'm frozen here. Well, why? I'm afraid that I could fall. Well, you're roped in. I know that, but that's only my mind that knows that. Emotionally, I can't move. Now, I'm not going to bring you up to a ropes course, but I am going to ask you to bring your ropes course to us. We want to find those places where you're stopped at the threshold of a possibility that you'd like to experience. You know, if it's in your career, or if it's in your finance, or if it's in your physical well-being, if it's in your relationships, if it's in your success, your health, it's in your growth as an individual. I decided, I'm just going to start meditating because meditating would really help me out. So I'm going to start meditating. You sit down and meditate, and guess what happens? Your mind is as crazy as it ever was, but now you have to sit there and watch it. Well, this is no fun. Meditation doesn't work. It didn't calm me down a bit. I tried it once. You hear this? Right? I remember in the early days of studying meditation, this one fellow said, Dr. Arya, this was our teacher, Dr. Usharbud Arya, who became Swami Veda and is now on Meditate with the Himalayan Masters, a program we publish here. He said, before I studied meditation, I wasn't nearly this angry. I just am angry all the time since I started meditating. And he smiled and said, no, you've always been angry. It's just now you're aware of it. Right? So now you've got another dilemma. It's like you could either meditate and face your anger or you could deal with your anger. Right? And so the very act of taking a step into the thing that we're not doing tends to bring to us the next step for us to take, which is how it goes. And when we claim, oh, this is what I really want, then an opportunity presents itself. So I decided early on in my career, I'm going to get more public speaking engagements. Of course, in the back of my mind, I remembered that I decided I would become a public speaker by joining Toastmasters. And we have 10 speeches to give. Toastmasters International, lovely organization. Have you ever participated? Anybody? Yes? Few? Okay. So one of the first speech you have to give is called your icebreaker speech, which is 7 minutes devoted to talking about yourself. So I had my speech all written out. I need to know who I am, right? So I wrote it all out so I could give, a nice cogent presentation. So I get up to the podium, place my speech there, smile at everyone, begin my speech. I'm looking at my notes and giving my speech. I'm starting to feel a little woozy. Have you ever felt woozy, like you're thinking you're going to faint? Woozy? So about a minute and a half into my speech, there are 3 minutes into my speech, suddenly I'm stopping and pausing because I'm noticing I can no longer see my notes. Like they've receded from view. I look up and the room is going, wah. And I realized that I'm about ready to hit the floor here. Now people are starting to nervously giggle in the room because they don't know why I'm pausing so long at that point in my talk. And I kind of stumbled and said, I'm going to have to sit down. I sat down. I was white as a sheet. People said, you okay? What's the matter? You got the flu? And I thought, I wish I could say I had the flu, So I couldn't finish my speech. There were 18 people in the room. So I thought, okay, I know hypnosis and meditation. I'm going to go home. I'm going to work on my mind. I get the opportunity to give it again next week. Get in front of the group. Same thing happens. Worse. Now I can tell I'm going to evacuate everything in my lower intestine shortly. So first of all, I stumbled back, again, pale as a ghost, stumbled back to my seat, but then I get up and go to the bathroom. I come back in, I said, make sure nobody uses that bathroom for a while, because damn, just saying. Something died in there, and it's not a happy place. And people were saying, what's going on? You have to understand, I had a hypnosis practice. I was giving workshops already. I mean, Toastmasters icebreaker speech, for goodness sake, right? I am completely incapacitated. So at the end of the program, when everybody's getting up to go, I said, if anyone can stay, would you be willing to just stay afterwards so I could finish this darn thing? I got up, and the 8 people could stay. I guess maybe I could handle a group of 8. So I give my speech, and this one guy who was the best Toastmaster ever, he was a former minister, he was an insurance executive, he was brilliant, he had been to all the speech contests, he was the best speaker ever. He came up to me and said, Paul, I got to tell you, I feel bad for you because I could tell you were suffering up there. But the same thing happened to me. When I was in seminary, I had to deliver my first sermon to the class, right? I stood up at the podium and just shook. My professor said, John, are you going to speak? And all I could do is shake my head. Would you like to sit down? Now listen, that image saved me. Because if he could go from there to where I knew him to be, I said, there's hope. But what I also experienced is this kind hand reaching out and saying, it's okay for you to be who you are, where you are right now. It went straight to my heart. All of the efforting, all of the desire, all of the intention, all of the efforts to make it right, all the judgment I had to face, it was like, so what? What do you want to do? I want to be a public speaker. Okay. Is it okay for you to do really badly at it first? No. Okay, then you're never going to be a public speaker. Is it okay for you to absolutely bomb? No. Don't bother then, because it's going to happen. So I signed up for the humorous speech contest. This was the first of 2 annual big contests that they have. You could go on into big results. So I said, humorous speech contest. I'm going to join it. So I designed a humorous speech. I won hands down at my club. Everybody loved it. So I now go to the district. And is it district? The next one, the areas, is the areas. So there's several other clubs in the area. So I compete against them. And I win. I mean, slam dunk, great speech. Everybody loves it. They're all cheering me on. So now I'm their guy who's going to go on to the next level. So I get to the next level. I win there. And now it's the big contest. So it's all of the state of Minnesota plus a couple of areas in Canada. And we're all coming together for the big district speech contest, the humorous speech contest. Well, we get to the venue. Have you ever been in an armory? It's like this hippodrome, this dome ceiling, and it's a mile long. Can you visualize this? My speech was all up close facial humor. Yeah. It reminded me of going to see Marcel Marceau at Northrop Auditorium at the University of Minnesota, and we were on the back wall, and we could see as a white dot on stage. Everybody downstairs was laughing. And I turned to the people next to me and said, you sure got crappy seats here. Yeah. Couldn't see anything on a mime from up there. Did we bring binoculars? No. So here I am. I've got this humorous speech. Everybody adored. And now I'm in a room where nobody could see anything that I'm doing. They didn't have jumbotrons back then, okay? So I deliver my speech. No one laughed. Okay, you're a stand-up comic. Nobody's laughing. You're dying right now. Wait, no, I take it back. One person laughed. It was my mother at the wrong time. It's like, oh, pathetic. And everybody from the district, I'm their guy. I'm like going up there, like, what happened? What happened? You were so funny before. So everybody clears out of the room. I go back up to the podium, and I stand up there and I say, I'm going to come back here when the international speech contest happens, and I am going to win this. Do you know that when the next contest came, I joined it. I won every area. When I got to the district contest, I won it. I did go on to the regionals. So, do you get what I'm saying? I want to go there, but I can't. Why? I don't know. But I believe I can't. But I know I can. But I believe I can't. I can't, but I can. I can. Do you hear this? Okay. So I decided as a young businessman, I'm going to become a public speaker and start getting some good paid gigs. Enough with this Toastmasters stuff. I get a call. The North Central Optometric Association, North Central States Optometric Association, doctors of optometry from all over the upper Midwest are all convening, 450 people, and I get the call, would you like to be our keynoter? And I said, absolutely. And I hung up the phone and went, what have you done? What would happen if? What if you have the same thing happen like when you did your icebreaker speech? What? This could be a career ender. What are you thinking? Do you get what I'm saying? Any of you guys have voices in your heads? Right? So when you're in that stuck state, you're oscillating. You want to go, but you want to pull back. You want to be safe, but you want to get success. We're stuck. So what I'd like to do is start out this program, that as a preamble. I'd like to start us out with a little drop-in process, a little tune-in, kind of expand our awareness of ourselves, and then we'll do some demonstrations so you can really get what this model is all about and how you can work with it today. We're going to work on the first 2 steps of the natural brilliance model today. It's release and notice. And tomorrow we're going to work on respond and witness. And we're going to supply you with a special set of headphones that are going to allow you to listen to the recordings that I developed for the Natural Brilliance program. And I'm also going to be doing a live track on that as well. So it's like a live paraliminal. If you've ever heard of paraliminal, you know, I'm talking both your ears, but you're going to get a live version at the same time. Except for those of you that are watching on the live stream, we're going to queue up a recording for you that you're going to be able to listen to at home on your own. You won't have the advantage of being here hearing my additional voice, but at least you'll be able to follow along with what we're doing. So, I want you to know that about every 45 minutes in our program, if you haven't been up and moving around, what we're going to do is a simple set of experiences. We're going to stand up, take a drink of water, and stretch ourselves. Then we're going to do a little movement exercise, and we're going to do a little tapping. EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, tapping. Okay? And then we'll do sit down and we'll do a little drop-in exercise. The drop-in exercise will usually just be 90 seconds. Because we're together, I'm going to do a few extra minutes than that. 3 minutes or so is about all. And that's how it's going to go. So right now, everybody please stand up and grab a drink of water. If you don't have one by you, go get one and keep it next to you all day long. Now, when I say have a glass of water by you, I don't mean you have to drink 8 ounces of water every time that you stand up. If you do, you're going to be running to the restroom way more often. But what we're going to do is just take a sip or two and keep that going all day long. You don't have to wait for me to tell you to do it. You can do it on your own. I don't know if any of you watching on live stream have decided this is a good time to take a bathroom break or not, but I think I lost half of my room here. We'll take a bathroom break an hour and a half into this, but you're all always welcome. So I talked about doing a little stretch. You know, I think a stretch of any kind that just feels good for you. Sometimes when I'm standing, I like doing, just loosen up my low back a little bit. But when I say stand, stretch, take a drink of water, I just mean, some kind of movement that just allows yourself to get your muscles going again. And then what we're going to do is a movement exercise that's more oriented towards balancing the hemispheres of the brain. We call it educational kinesiology, or it might be yoga. And so we're going to do a little yoga move here where your legs are a little beyond halfway or hip distance. It's bigger than his shoulder width apart. You raise one arm out, and when it gets to the shoulder, then you raise up. You extend there. Keep your head next to your arm, and then slowly lower to that side. Inhale and go up. Lower that, and while that's going down, the other one comes up. So they cross about there. The palm comes up. You stretch up at the top and lean over to the side. And that's good. Reach up at the top. Exhale. Inhale. If you inhale up, exhale down, then you're getting that wave form going, which is good in a lot of ways. We'll probably talk about that a bunch. So it's inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down. Last one. Isn't this the last one? 3, round of 3, yeah? Up and down. Good. Couple of shoulder rolls at the end of that. It's good. Now we're going to do some tapping. We're going to tap on the crown of our heads and we'll say, I choose to live in my joy today. I choose joy to live in today. Joy is what I choose to live today. Okay, good. Have a seat. We'll do a quick drop-in. Now, there's a bunch of little drop-in relaxation exercises you're going to be learning later on today. This one is a simple exercise called dropping in. And with this, there's really just a couple of simple steps to it. So the first thing you do, take a deep breath in. As you exhale, close your eyes. And withdraw your awareness from the world around you to the space your body is occupying. So you're aware of yourself from head to toe. Now you also know that it took a lot for you to get here, to make the arrangements, to be present in this place. And while your mind could be wandering and running around other times and other places, try to bring your mind to your body. Your body is already in your mind. So just bring your mind to your body and become aware of yourself in the space your body is occupying. Feel your shoulders relax a bit. When you imagine your shoulders dropping, it actually gives a signal to the rest of your body to drop any excess tension that's within you. Next, relax the muscles of your face, especially if you focus on the frontalis, this forehead muscle. And if you could imagine the forehead smoothing out, what that is associated with is relaxation throughout the entire body. So relaxing the forehead is really helpful. Relax around your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw. And finally, notice your breathing. And your body is breathing you all the time, whether you're thinking about it or not. It does it at night, does it all day long. But here's a really cool thing. When you pay attention to your breath, you actually bring your awareness into the present moment. So see if you can feel the touch of the breath in your nostrils right now. You really can't have this experience and be imagining other things at the same time. So just following the touch of the breath in your nostrils brings you to the here and now. Now I invite you to see if you can allow the breath to flow without any pauses or jerks between them, so that the exhale flows into the inhale, flows into the exhale in a smooth and continuous fashion. Now see if the exhale and inhale can be of a similar duration, a similar length. So when you breathe deeply, evenly, smoothly, an amazing thing happens both in your neurology and in your physiology. It balances the energies within you, balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. It balances the active and passive energy fields in your body, the yin and yang energies. And breath is actually the invisible link between the body and the mind. So again, just focusing on the breath is huge in terms of the benefits it will give to you. And we'll expand on your experience of this with your eyes closed. Just to review, the first thing we did is brought our awareness to the space our body is occupying. We relaxed our shoulders. We relaxed the face, especially the forehead. And we tuned in and relaxed the breath. That's it. That's dropping in. And you can do it in a matter of a few moments. 30 seconds is all you need. What it does is it's so many benefits, and the restoring quality of these few moments you spend cannot be underestimated. It's really a rich resource for you. So now, maintaining an awareness of the flow of your breath, gently bring your hands to your eyes and open your eyes to the palms of your hands. Slowly draw your hands away from your face and bring your gaze into the rest of the room. Now, the reason that I ask you to do this thing with the hands, it's not absolutely necessary, but the advantage to you is that it helps to change your state of consciousness with more direct control. So it's, if you make your hands a little warm, cover your eyes, open your eyes while your palms are over your eyes, and then slowly draw your hands away. The first thing you see is yourself, and then you see the rest of the world. My meditation teacher from his earliest age was instructed by his father, before he opened his eyes, to reach under his pillow and pull out a hand mirror, and then open his eyes to the reflection of himself first. That taught him a life of reflective contemplation. So in a way, this is a duplication of that activity. And learning, in order for it to be most effective, has to be more than just cognitive. It has to be affective. And in order for transformation to occur, we have to be aware of our affect, and we have to be reflective. Because a transformational change is a change in meaning making. It's a change in the way you make meaning about the world. So we're actually increasing our mental complexity. Instead of looking at the world through the lens that we've been handed, we have an opportunity to look at the lens we've been given. That's a transformational move. Associated with all transformative learning is this quality of affective learning and reflection. So thank you for giving yourself these days of reflection. This is really your gift to you to transform your life in the ways that can be most meaningful for you. Most meaningful meaning you bring the fullness of who you are into the world. That's what we all need. You've heard the idea. We need you to be showing up, and we need you to be big here, right? We need you now for the work that is to be done. So thank you all for that. All right, you ready to get into some of the content of all this? Excellent. You know, I'm wondering what I could do to get this to work. This was working really well yesterday, and I'm just noticing that my my little device here isn't triggering the result I need it to trigger. We'll see. Oh, I may have done it. I may have done it. Yes. So, are there any questions about this concept of living in a biphasic universe, in a yin-yang universe, in a human experience? So, yes. Siaka, could we get a microphone? Anybody a microphone runner around here? Thank you so much. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, thanks. From this preliminary talk, it sounds to me that the willpower that we're supposed to have becoming effective at some point, and this course is supposed to help us break through that which the willpower cannot get us through.
Okay, so when you say the word willpower, what does that mean to you? Because when willpower alone is not enough to get you where you want to go, then yes, this course picks up from there. But what does this word mean?
I want to do something. I feel like I need to do something. I'm willing to do it, but I can't.
Okay, did you catch that, James? It didn't come through. Say it again, if you would.
I'm willing to do something. I feel like I need to do something, and I just cannot do it.
And you want to do it. You want to do it. You're willing to do it, and you can't do it. That's exactly the spot where this course picks up. So if you can identify any of those, that'd be great. What I'd like to share with you is that there's actually 3 components to this. And you can think about the location of these in your head, in your midsection, your heart, and in your gut. Okay? So open mind, open heart, open will is what we're really looking for. And sometimes we're closed down in these areas. Now it's actually a little bigger topic to get into some of that material. This is what I spend a lot of time with folks on when I work with them in a coaching capacity. But the idea is, if we just start here at the idea that I have a desire, but I'm not getting there. And you may have heard this statement. It's an ancient literature about who we are. Who we are is ever free, ever pure, ever wise. All you are is consciousness and bliss. All there is consciousness and bliss, and that thou art. These are the ancient traditions and writings about the human experience. So this is an interesting idea of free will. Right? That's kind of, we have free will, but sometimes we don't pick it up and do it. Okay? Pure of heart. It's how we're born into the world. We have to be taught to hate. We don't come out of the womb hating anything. We're all just little bundles of love energy, right? And there was a spiritual master who said, ask and it shall be given unto you. Any question that you have, you can have the answer to it. The universe will reveal to you any question that's on your mind and in your heart. Everything is given to us. So if we have free will and we can't seem to exercise it, what's going on? And there's a lot of reasons why we shut down, why we close off our wisdom, our heart, and our will. The interesting one about the heart is one I've studied quite a bit through a field of study called eidetic psychotherapy. And what Dr. Asen refers to around the heart is that there is the flesh of the heart and there's the essence of the heart. But what happens in the wounding that we experience as children is the essence of the heart is withdrawn from the heart. And as Jungian psychotherapists talk about it, some of our best qualities get shut down. Why are you so happy? Right? Don't be so creative. Just do what I tell you. Right? Happiness, creativity, they get shut down. As Jung talked about it, is they get stuffed into a long black bag that we drag behind us throughout our lives, never knowing that in that shadowy place is our greatest gifts, our gold. And what we have to do now is we have to reveal that gold to ourselves. Think about it another way. There's a stop sign that's been placed, and our goodies are on the other side of the stop signs. So what natural brilliance is, it's a way of getting access to that. And that's really what we're after right now. So you really have articulated that this is it. Now, there's a guardian at each one of these levels of our existence. I call them an egoic representation. I have a workshop called Guardians of Change, and it gets into this in a bit more detail, but just as a little thumbnail sketch, the guardian of the open mind guards it with the voice of judgment. Because it's looking at your mental model, it's looking at the world as you know it and said, oh, you can't do that. I've never heard of such a thing. Right? Many of you are recent graduates of the photo reading program. You tell people, I'm going to go take this course. We're going to go through materials, 25,000 words. I've never heard of that. If that's real, how come schools aren't using it? Right? Or if it's not a part of their mental model, it's gone. Right? It's not possible. Voice of judgment protects your open mind. From what? Being hurt again. These are protectors. Your guardians are protectors. Guardian of the open heart is the cynic, the voice of cynicism. You really think you're going to be able to do that? I once tried to do that. It never worked. So people who live in cynicism, we say they're the broken-hearted idealists. They had an ideal for their life, and it got shut down. I've always wanted to be a dancer. I've always wanted to be a singer. You're going to do that? Heard the great story yesterday. This week was the anniversary of the passing of Prince. As you know, Minnesota is where Prince resided, and Paisley Park is just down the road from my house. I drive by it quite often, Chanhassen, Minnesota. I did a recording there. It was the Personal Celebrations series was created at Paisley Park. Prince was in the studio next door to us. I had to go and tell him to shut up. No. But there was a little girl who grew up loving Prince and said to her mother, I'm either going to marry Prince or some other guy. I forget right now who it was. But she became a dancer, and her mother got a video of her in the hands of one of the dancers for Prince, who showed it to Prince, and Prince wanted to meet the girl while they were there. So they met, and indeed they did get married. So it was a story on National Public Radio that I was listening to, and it's right at the time I had to turn off the car and come back in here, so I didn't get to hear the whole thing. But it was that idea, is that open-hearted idealist didn't get shut down. Her mother didn't say, oh, come on, get real. That's never going to happen. I once loved a boy. And it didn't happen. You're just not being realistic. So the cynic is the broken-hearted idealist, trying to protect you from what? From getting hurt again. Well, I don't want your heart to be broken, sweetie. I just want to tell you, it ain't never going to happen, right?
I'm just going to break it now.
Yeah, I'll break it for you now, so it doesn't have to be broken later. Do you get it? I mean, it's all for your best. My father, bless his heart, my father really wanted to see me succeed. He was at the Toastmasters meeting. He must have been going, oh my Lord. And one day, after, we would meet monthly for a lunch, like a business lunch. We'd talk about my business. He was an international business consultant and all of that. And I really valued him. He was a very good friend, and he was a great counsel to me. I always thought he had my best interest in mind. But at one business lunch we had, I said, Dad, I'm so excited. Coming out with a new audio program. They're called paraliminals, where I actually talk to the person listening in both ears. It's based on something I've been working on with NLP and all my work all these years. He said, cassette tapes? You can't make any money selling cassette tapes. Today, that's true. But back then, it was all the rage. And it was really sad moment for me, because I realized that my dream, what was on my heart and mind to do, was not safe in his presence. And I remember, boy, it was like 8 months later, he said, how come we never get together anymore for lunch? I didn't want to say, Dad, I love you, and you don't get what I'm about. At the end of his life, you know what he said? Paul, you are the most creative man I have ever met. The guardian of the open will is the guardian that uses the voice of fear. We've got the voice of judgment. We've got the voice of cynicism. This one is the voice of fear. And essentially, this guardian stands in front of us with a big stop sign and says, none shall pass. You shall not pass! Right? Any of you see Lord of the Rings? Yeah, I just love it. Gandalf. Staring that, what was the ball, who's the big fiery thing that came out of the mountain, Troll Mountain? Balrog, that was it. You shall not pass. Now, you got to understand, if any of you saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail and the terrible Tim, the Beast, that's no beast, it's just a pony. Yeah, but he's got a mean streak that wide. Yeah, but, it's this fiery guardian that's shooting lightning bolts out of his staff, right? These guardians are really intense. And when we run up against them, we are 3, 4, and 5 years old, knowing that it's dangerous to go there. And that stop sign was placed there for our protection. So while we are feeling stuck and we look at our subconscious mind, as people call it, and we think, well, it's just a bunch of internal saboteurs that are stopping me from getting where I want to go. No. They're your blessed guardian angels, right? My dad loved me totally, but he couldn't see my path for me, right? One day, I brought to my father a check that showed we had made $35,000 selling audio cassettes that month. And he said, maybe you can make money selling audio cassettes. It was like, no big deal. I was like, okay, I was wrong. All right, good going, cool. But for me, as a businessman, international business consultant, friend of mine is named Jack Canfield. This guy who wrote a little series of books called Chicken Soup for the Soul. So he got this idea, putting together stories, because he'd always tell stories from the stage, and people say, hey, have you ever put a compendium of those stories? They're so great, we love them so much. You could make us a book out of those. He thought, yeah. And a friend of his, Mark Victor Hansen, same kind of thing, and he said, hey, I'll do it with you because I got a lot of stories that we could do it together. So he put it together, and in the shower one day, a voice told Jack, the name of the book is Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he went, huh? Why chicken soup? And the voice said, because the soul of humanity is sick and it needs healing. He said, okay. So he came out with Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he brought it to all the publishers that he knew of in New York. And you know what they said? Wow, awesome idea, great, we're totally on it. Not only did they say we're not interested, but then they had to give all the reasons why. Like the title sucks, right? Nobody buys these kinds of books. We've tried those in the past. Nothing ever. Forget it. Go away. Not interested. Go home. And because they had to justify their mental model, they really amped up how ridiculous the whole thing was. So after going through 27 publishers there, they went to 40 more there, and they went all to California, and they went all everywhere else. Over 140 rejections. They were at the book show at McCormick Place in Chicago. It's an annual conference. All the book distributors, all the book publishers, and in the far end of some big hall, way in the back, there's this little Chicago publisher and said, hey, we'll do it. Became the #1 most successful book publishing experience in history. Aside from the Bible, it is the most successful book series ever created. It made careers for a lot of my pals. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So when along that would you have quit? After the first 10? Most adult learners need to do something 50 times, 50 times, before they can know whether they can do it or not. Very rarely will someone go beyond 3. Almost never will someone go beyond 10. How many times am I going to have to get up on stage and confront my fear about whether I'm going to pass out on stage? Once passing out is enough to stop most of us, right? Like, who wants to go through that again? So, at what point are you going to quit? On what? On yourself? On your dreams? You've given so much. A free will, pure heart, a wise mind. It's a matter of getting past those stop signs. So what would it be like to live life beyond the stop signs? Cool? All right. So I need a little... I'm going to need to lay something out here on the stage. Do you remember those little laminated signs I gave you with present and future and all of those? Good. I'm really glad, because I'm hoping you have them. Not the stuff around our necks. They're the little laminate ones like this. Oh, do they? Okay. No, it says present and future, present, positives, negatives. No? Okay. I gave it to Katie when I first arrived. Would you just kind of check around in there? We'll do it virtually so that you can all kind of get it that way. How are we on time? We still got a few minutes? All right. So imagine now, I'm going to lay out on this stage 4 little signs. So it looks like this, basically. And if you think about one side being positive or present and one being future, and the top being positive and the bottom being negative. So basically this is the way it looks. Up here is present. Over here is future. Does that make sense? Present, future. I'm going to kind of split this here, maybe. And then I've got positive up here and negative here. Does that work? Yeah. So now I've got essentially a matrix with 8 positions on it. So we've got the present positives, the future positives, present negatives, and future negatives. You with me on that? So here's what happens, is most of us are motivated to move away from our present negatives. Right? So what do you have right now that you don't want? Well, I've got this financial stress, or I've got this bad relationship, or, I'm stuck in a job with a toxic boss, or, whatever it is. I've got a present negative. It's in your notebooks, and the notebooks is, what page is it on?
43. Well, there's a smaller, this one's on
Page 5 in your playbooks, okay? And it's also in the Natural Brilliance book. So, where I'm trying to go from is what I have and don't want, and go up to a future positive of what I want and don't have. Little lamb in the, no, never mind. We're doing it virtually now. It's perfectly okay. So,
It's actually working out really well.
do you like this? Yeah. You're not going to see what I have up on the floor on the stage anyway, so you kind of get the idea. Now this line from here to here, this is what we would call self-improvement. So the whole field of personal development grew out of this movement, from what you got now to where you're going to go. Now, I was doing this back in the mid-1970s. I took NLP in 1977, studied with Bandler and Grinder, the developers of it, in 1979, went to the first residential credentialing program with Bandler and Grinder and all the developers of it, was certified next year, 81, certified as one of 70 master practitioners of NLP in the world. First folks ever doing it. Tony Robbins came along a couple years later, 1983, made a fortune teaching it. Bandler sued him for infringement, so instead of calling it neuro-linguistic programming, he called it neuro-associative coding. So he just changed the vernacular. But this is what he made his fortune on. It's the idea of moving from here to here. He used a technique called the swish pattern. There's a lot of things that just are like instant change techniques. And here's what it's about. If a person says, I can't, that's about possibility. In linguistic terms, the modal operator of possibility. I cannot. He said, and this one phrase summed it all up, if you can't, you must. In other words, I have a fear, you have to confront your fear, right? If you believe you can't, then you must do that. So you turn it from a modal operator of possibility to a modal operator of necessity. If you can't, you must. So you must go and do this thing that is yours to do. Go get what it is that you want and don't have. That's self-development. Now, if you've ever been stuck on something, you know that you could go to workshop after workshop after workshop and still not get the result that you want, and you come home scratching your head. You're all fired up. It's like, wow, on fire, and 3 days later you fizzled out. So we can add additional things, hang other possibilities on that. But what I noticed in working with people, just like the ropes course, they're standing there on the threshold and they're not able to get where it is that they want to go. There's something that keeps pulling them back. So what is it? What is it that's pulling them back? What's pulling them back are these other two dimensions. First is that, you know what? There's a lot of goodies about my life just the way it is. As bad as things are, as bad as things are, the truth is that there's some good stuff that's going on. Why can't I just be happy with what I have? I mean, after all, success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get, right? So why don't I just want what I get? You're pretty darn good already. Everything's cool. And you know what? Possibility is you might lose some of that if you make a change. So part of you is going, woo, 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 woo. Well, tolerate a lot of negative stuff because it's not so bad. So the Declaration of Independence wrote a line in there. It said, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they've become accustomed. The French put it this way: plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Why is it human nature that even though we're saying we want to change, the status quo stays in place? It's safe right here. Let's just maintain an even keel. Don't rock the boat. Everything's okay. Well, now let's come back to our neurophysiology. Everything in here is about maintaining status quo. Why? Because equilibrium is hard to get. Watch. I'm going to throw this ball in the air. I'm going to show you when equilibrium is occurring. Right now, it's not occurring. This is equilibrium. Now, it's the most unstable state in the universe. It's that point where it's no longer moving up and it's not yet starting to move down. That's equilibrium. And if things are in balance right now, as bad as things are, don't mess it up. In fact, if things are messed up, you know what we need to do? We need to go back to the good old days. It's like in education. You know, if we could just get back to the good... What good old days? You know what was going on back then? It was not all that good. Right? For a lot of reasons. It's called educational fundamentalism. So the idea is our nervous system is designed to maintain equilibrium, status quo, keep it in place. You want to change your life. What's so wrong with the life I've given you after all? Right? Teenagers, they never appreciate anything. Right? Why is it that adolescents, neurologically and biologically, have to reject the status quo that was given? It's a biological imperative. You have to get out, you have to spread your seed to increase the gene pool. So there is a natural need to get away from status quo. And if all we can do is rebel, we really aren't creating something new, so it's not necessarily the best way to go. So what about the other thing that holds us back? This is the biggie. This is the place of our fears. This is the place of our shadow. It's the place where, what if in the future something really bad happens? What if I get something that I don't want, and right now I don't have? What if I go and give this speech and it's a bomb? Do you get this? So while we've got this one force going to where I want to go, I've got these two forces pulling me back. And so the reason that people default on getting to where they want to go is because of these two very powerful forces trying to maintain equilibrium. In the United States, it's a beautiful example. We knew that we needed to set off a dynamite charge in Washington and break the gridlock that had been happening in the nation. We had to get Congress to get a move on. There are a lot of things that were happening. Status quo was not good enough. We needed a change. So let's bring in somebody who's going to shake it up. And imagine yourself sitting in a canoe, waiting at the dock for your new president to step in. The first thing the president does is steps on the gunwale of the canoe and flips it upside down. Now, your immediate response is going to be, wee-hee, wow, that was fun. Now I'm underwater and I'm under the... No. Immediately downshift into your old brain, reptilian survival mode. You're going to hang on. You're going to freak out. You're going to, what's going on? Who is this person? What's happening? Right? It's the natural response. Gang, that's what change feels like. The canoe's upside down. It's the new normal. Get to the shore. Figure out what you're going to do. Don't complain about being under the canoe anymore. It's not helpful. We got to do something now, okay? If education is going to be abolished as we know it, sink the Titanic. Get another boat up here. That system isn't doing what it needs to do for our society. An industrialized military model isn't sufficient to deal with the world we're living in today. If it's got to change, maybe this is what change looks like. Guess what? This is what change looks like. It's not where we want it yet. But this is what it feels like when a transformational change comes. Nothing looks the same. Doesn't show up like we thought it would. Now, I'm not advocating any of the methods by which any of this is happening. I'm just saying, welcome to the new normal. As my professor in my doctorate wrote a book, it's called Permanent Whitewater. You know, you're going down this river, it's churning, it's class 5 rapids, and you're thinking, oh man, at least at some point it's going to come to the calm, still water again. And one of the executives in my professor's course one time said, you know, I keep waiting for the calm water, and I realized there is none. It's all permanent whitewater. And he got that, and he said, yep. This is what we need to learn to move with. You got to get your surfboard out. The tsunami's coming. You better paddle as fast as you can. You better ride this sucker, because that potential energy is turning to kinetic energy, and you need to use that energy to create the world you want to live in. So the good news is you just recognized you're stuck. Woohoo! Good. Now we know where to focus our energy. Now what you're going to discover along the way is, wow, you know, what are the present positives I want to keep? What are the things I need to change? And, you know, maybe some of them aren't so bad, but certainly what is the future I desire to live into? And if there are any future negatives, maybe those can inform me on how I can operate better. Maybe there are some additional resources that I can get access to. Maybe I've forgotten who I really am, and I've been lost to who I am, and the power that is available to me is now ready to be revealed to me. I'm going to get where I want to go. I'm going to create the world I want to live in. This is your opportunity. You're given the resources to do it. This is the greatest time in human history. There's no question. This is the best it's ever been. And it can get even better. As Buckminster Fuller said, there is enough for everyone. You just need to learn how to share it, get along. How to get along. We can create a world that's socially just. We can create a world that's environmentally sustainable, that's economically sustainable, and that's spiritually fulfilling. If the models we've been using to make it happen up until now don't work, create some new models. But we're waiting for you to show up and bring your work into the world. So we got to solve these problems, and this is a good opportunity. Let's start with ourselves. And when we can get to where we want to go within our own lives, then we can expand these strengths into the changes we want to see in the world. As Gandhi said, the biggest challenge he had in overthrowing British rule in India wasn't British rule, was his own anger. And he had to work on that every single day. He had to keep his eyes on the prize, right? And he did it without a shot fired. Greatest military in the world left India to the Indian people without a shot fired by the Indian people. It's amazing, you know, when you really think about it. And what did he say? Become the change you want to see in the world. Yeah. So we're going to come back right after this break, and we're going to do a little demonstration of how oscillation happens, so I can show you the natural brilliance model and how you can start popping those stop signs out. And Justin, are you heading out? Did I just get that nonverbal that you have to leave us? Out to the airport. Well, thanks, Justin. And we'll see you on live stream. We're going to come back in 16 minutes and 12 seconds. See you then.